Hi, thanks for watching. I'm Kevin Trudeau, and this is another edition of A Closer Look. We're going to be talking about health this half hour, specifically cancer, heart disease. My guest is Robert Barefoot, who's the author of Death by Diet and the Calcium Factor. First up, you're not a medical doctor.
No, I'm a scientist.
Okay. You say most degenerative diseases, aging, cancer, osteoporosis, heart disease, kidney stones, even allergies, can be scientifically linked to mineral deficiencies.
That's correct.
Explain that.
Well, the reason for that is that the human body, when it lacks these minerals, begins to build up acid, and the acid drives out the oxygen. You see, in acid, oxygen can't remain, so it's expelled. So as your body fluids become more acidic, you have less and less oxygen, and it makes so much sense.
I wonder if I am going to get cancer.
Yes.
Is there a way for us to know whether we will or won't?
Yes, there is, and it's very simple. You see, all your body fluids share, Rob. You produce about 8 quarts of saliva a day, and the saliva circulates through the blood, and the blood takes out of the saliva the calcium. When that occurs, the saliva becomes very acidic. So you just have to do a 3-cent pH test, spit on a piece of saliva, and I can tell you your state of health.
What's a good way, in your opinion, that a person can get rid of that acidity?
There are cultures all over the world that never get sick, and they live to be 100. They all have one thing in common. They all consume over 100,000 milligrams of calcium a day.
Is that the only common denominator, consuming more calcium?
No, the other common denominators are all in the sun for several hours a day.
I thought the sun was bad for us.
No, the sun prevents cancer, doesn't cause cancer.
Okay, now let's talk about this calcium, because there's different ways to get calcium in your system. The coral from Okinawa, Japan, that people add in water.
Yeah, they discovered it 600 years ago when the chickens pecked the coral reefs. There was twice as many eggs. The cows get 3 times as much milk.
And so you can buy this coral calcium sand, and you add the sand to water? Is that how it works?
Well, you can do that, and you get some benefits, because you see, the sand also contains microbes, little critters, that when you get in your intestine, they go to work and you absorb 10 times as much food. But the best way, of course, is to consume it whole. I've had 1,000 people tell me how they've cured their cancer. I've witnessed people get out of wheelchairs with multiple sclerosis just by getting on the coral. I have women sometimes within 20 minutes say, "Ooh, I'm getting a buzz." And did you know that DNA, which is your blueprint to stay young and your blueprint to repair yourself, did you know that DNA only works when smothered in calcium? So when you haven't had your calcium today, your DNA is virtually dormant, and you grow old twice as fast. Look at these people like Michael Fox that got Parkinson's, which we know is caused by free radicals chewing up his brain. Mm-hmm. Free radical, by definition, is starved for electrons and is positively charged. Now, if you smother it in electrons, you destroy it. So if you make your body alkaline by taking calcium, the free radicals are destroyed on entry. You can't get Parkinson's.
Pain. Talk about pain.
Now, that involves a lot of transfer of electrons. Mm-hmm. And, of course, by definition, alkali is an electron bath. Okay? Understand that? It's an electron bath. When it's acid, there are no electrons. So if you bathe your body in electrons, you can supply all the electrical energy you need to eliminate all the pain you need.
And that's it.
That's it. Your body can cure itself. It needs nutrients. It's not getting them. I'm just quoting the scientific community.
Does Bob Barefoot accurately represent the opinions of the scientific community? We asked the world's most prominent scientists to respond to Barefoot's claims about the controversial link between calcium and disease.
Hi, I'm Mark Schlissel. I'm a professor of immunology here at UC Berkeley, and I'm vice chair of the MCB department.
What is the focus of your research?
We study the developmental biology of the B and T cells that cooperate in making antibodies to help the immune system fight infection.
Bob Barefoot makes some pretty remarkable statements on his infomercial. Could you comment on his claims about disease and cancer being linked to calcium deficiency?
I think the guy's absolutely brilliant. It's just one of these things where people can look at a situation time and time again and just not have the right insight. Then all of a sudden somebody comes by, in particular an outsider who sees things a different way, and it was just an epiphany for me. It was a remarkable thing. He has to be right.
My name is Carolyn Bertozzi. I'm a chemist at UC Berkeley. I'm also in the MCB department and a Howard Hughes Medical Institute investigator. And it's absolutely true that the link between calcium and cancer is one of the most important findings probably of the last 200 years. What's not true is that Dr. Barefoot made this discovery, because my lab discovered this about 5 years ago. We don't get credit for this discovery, and we don't go on talk shows, we don't do the circuit, but I can show you the data that links calcium to cancer. Take a look. Now, if you analyze the surfaces of cancer cells from many different types of cancer, take a close look. What do you see? What do they all share in common? Do you see it? Well, look, okay? And it doesn't matter what the cancer is. Breast cancer, brain cancer, ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, bone cancer, skin cancer. Every single one of these correlates with calcium. Every single one of them. And in fact, you can't find a single cancer that does not somehow involve calcium. I challenge you to find a type of cancer that doesn't have calcium in it, somehow.
Hi, I'm Carsten Weiss, and I'm an associate professor here at Berkeley. And I'm not an MD, but I'm a scientist.
Thank you for being with us today, Dr. Weiss. I understand that in addition to being familiar with Barefoot's scientific work, he's also a personal acquaintance of yours.
Oh, yes. I mean, Barefoot is actually a close friend of mine, and his work on calcium has really influenced my thinking of many cell biological processes, intracellular trafficking.
As a cell biologist, could you tell me whether cells themselves play a role in cancer?
Well, I think this still remains an open question, but recently we have begun working on that problem very deeply, and so we have developed novel optical sensors. If we expose cells to sunlight, the sunlight will react with the acids or the bases in the cells, and we get a transfer of the energy. And what you really see is that these cells change their color, and if we use the right filters, and we recently discovered that there are different filters on our microscopes which really make these cells look either red or blue, and it's obvious the blue cells look just much happier. And this color changes perfectly reflect the acidity and also the health state of the cell. For example, this cell here is totally acidic, and in fact it died after the experiments. 2 days later it died of cancer.
Hi, I'm Matt Welch, professor of cell and developmental biology here in the MCB department at Berkeley.
Thanks for speaking with us today, Dr. Welch. I know both scientifically and personally, Dr. Barefoot's work has meant a lot to you. Would you care to elaborate on this?
Oh, of course. Well, when I was growing up as a young boy in Okinawa, I just felt so full of life. I mean, the eggs, the chicken, they're just delicious. And then when I came here to the United States, I felt that something was missing. I mean, the cancer, the lethargy, the lice, the bad eggs and chicken. And when I realized that it could all be explained by one fact, that my DNA was turned off, it was just a revelation.
We think we have the true structure of calcium. Now, we just solved this recently, and take a close look. This is the structure that clearly illustrates all of the functions of calcium. And if you take a look at this, you can see instantly why this molecule can cure all forms of cancer. You see that? Let me walk you through this. So first of all of the properties that Barefoot discusses can be explained by this molecule. In fact, just take a look at it. It's absolutely evident why calcium can do all of the things that it can do. First of all, this molecule is the perfect molecule. It has a beautiful channel right down the middle, and obviously that's why the molecule can quench acid. So look at that. Acid can go into the channel, and it just can't ever come out. Now take a look up here. See this loop? That's the cancer curing loop. And it's clear why that loop can cure cancer. That's a loop that I've never seen before. Therefore, it must cure cancer. Now look at this part of the molecule here. This part of the molecule we call the DNA smothering helix. And the reason we believe that that's its function is that it's a helix, and so is DNA, and so therefore it must smother DNA.
Hi, my name is Paul Kaufman. I have a joint appointment between the MCB department and Berkeley National Laboratory.
I know that your lab studies DNA replication, and I was wondering if you have any insight into Barefoot's hypothesis that calcium actually turns on DNA.
Well, we're very excited about the Barefoot hypothesis, and I have a result right here that shows that indeed calcium activates DNA. When it's smothering the DNA is active for replication. So we're adding increasing amounts of calcium here, and we see more and more DNA replication in the test tube when the calcium is just all over that DNA. Now, we know that the Bertozzi lab has solved the structure of calcium and the DNA smothering helix. And so we're interested in taking those kinds of results seen in vitro studies and applying them to whole organisms. So we're really trying to smother as many organisms as we can with calcium.
Could you cite any specific evidence from your field that supports Barefoot's views?
Absolutely. We study DNA recombination, and we have to add calcium to get our reactions to work in a test tube. And, you know, we just added calcium because it was in the paper. It said we should add calcium, but we never thought how fundamental a difference it could make. We used to make antibodies that were really wimpy antibodies. I don't know if I had any diagrams around here, but if you can see the diagram, without calcium, you get these antibodies that are just hanging out there waving in the breeze, wimpy antibodies. When we add calcium to our reactions, we get the Schwarzenegger antibodies. We get antibodies that are animals. It makes a night and day difference. And if you think about it, it really makes sense because calcium is involved in muscle contraction, and we're making stronger B cells to make stronger antibodies. It's just brilliant.
Well, I'm sure you know about the Bertozzi hypothesis, that it's the marine microbes together with the coral calcium that are curing cancer and a host of other illnesses. And so we've initiated a number of studies, and I'd love to show them to you right now. So we've been working on understanding the effect of coral calcium together with marine microbes on the process of cell movement, which is a process that is critical for curing cancer and a host of microbial diseases. And as you can see here, in cells that are not treated with coral calcium, there's absolutely no movement. The cells appear to be dead. But when we add the coral calcium, you can see that these cells are clearly vibrant and alive, and they begin to initiate this amazing process of cell motility.
And we really went further and could sort of correlate this in this really nice false coloring scheme here. And really the alkaline or blue color perfectly correlates with immortality. These cells continue to grow and grow and grow. And on the off scale here, and the acidity level is really death, cancer, and also bad fashion.
So, in your experience, how much calcium is recommended per day?
Well, I believe Dr. Barefoot's estimate on that was on the order of 100,000 milligrams per day per individual. Now, so that's hundreds of grams. So that's a fairly large number, and so the challenge scientifically then is how do you administer hundreds of grams or even kilograms of calcium to an individual in a 24-hour period.
The other part of the molecule we call the oxygen upregulating helix. And it's clear why that is, because as you can see, it's blue. And when you are deprived of oxygen, you also turn blue. And that's how we know that that's what the function of that part of the protein is. One of the biggest controversies in the coral calcium field right now is how this molecule can control the oral bioavailability of marine microbes. Now remember that marine microbes are an important part of the efficacy of coral calcium. And we believe that it's this pH regulatory domain. We believe that the protein is actually binding to these microbes, making them bioavailable, so that when you take the coral calcium, those marine microbes actually enter through your intestines and invade your body and cure cancer. Now, Dr. Barefoot might have a completely different take on this, but I can't speak for him.
Do you have a general model for how all of these factors are working together to fight cancer?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that question. So we've been working on synthesizing a general model together with other labs on campus, and we have identified the 4 key factors that function in this process: coral calcium, marine microbes, massive quantities of food, and neutrophils. And as you can see here, these factors both synergize and negatively regulate each other at the same time. The coral calcium, combined with the molecular microbes, the food, and the neutrophils, are all killing these cancer cells.
So what, in your opinion, is the open question that remains in the field to be answered?
Well, we already know the DNA smothering pathway has been well worked out. And so we're really interested and intrigued by the possibility that it's actually the massive quantities of chicken that can influence the process of cell motility. And so we've taken a really novel approach, which is to make extracts from both chicken and other junk foods like hamburgers and cheeseburgers, to apply them to cells to see whether it inhibits the process of cell motility. And I have to tell you that I'm feel so invigorated by this new research that it almost makes me feel like a boy back in Okinawa again.
Well, here's the thing. There's a brand new drug. It's called Gleevec. It makes the cancers melt away. The thing is, it's incredibly expensive. It costs $2,000 for one bottle of this stuff. Coral calcium costs pennies, and John's new work shows clearly that coral calcium for pennies is every bit as good as big pharmaceutical drugs for thousands of dollars.
And this is published in a scientific journal?
Published right here in Science, the Rolling Stone of Biology.
Is there any way for me to determine whether my cells are red or blue?
Oh, I'm very glad that you ask. I mean, we really recently have been able to translate our research on cells in culture really to modern medicine and to human beings. And we were able to develop a novel color test, which really is enabling us to measure the acidity simply by measuring the pH of your saliva. And it's very easy, and you just simply have to spit on it.
Oh, okay.
And as a control, I can also, since I'm now for a long time taking huge amounts of coral calcium, and I can then demonstrate probably very efficiently the health benefits of the coral calcium on my life.
Would you be able to demonstrate for us the most effective way to ingest these amounts of calcium so our home viewers know what they should be doing?
Well, I haven't completely arrived at a perfect solution, but here's what's been working best for me. First of all, you need one of these applicators. I got this from Sigma, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's only $4.95, and you just have to make a tight roll of it, right? And then you just use it to snort the powder right up.
Can you tell us any of the personal effects this amount of calcium has been having on you?
Well, I find I can get out of my wheelchair much more easily.
I think mine's ready.
Okay, how does it look? I mean, here is my reference. Very nice, blue.
Oh my God. There's a difference. I'm not sure what this means.
There's a huge difference. Oh my God. I mean, that
What is it?
Totally off the scale, totally off the scale. I mean, this looks very, very bad. And I really think there are only two possibilities. And one is you're either going to die of cancer in 2 days, or, I mean, the only other, I can offer you some of my daily supplements here. And I mean, I take at least 2 of these every day. So I can offer you some. You better get started soon.
And I just take, okay, all right.
Golly, there's so many things. But the main thing calcium does is it wipes out acid, and the other thing it does is it helps your DNA be turned on.
That's a loop that I've never seen before. Therefore, it must cure cancer.
Did you know that DNA only works when smothered in calcium? They all have one thing in common. They all consume over 100,000 milligrams of calcium a day.
And you just use it to snort the powder right up.
Acid can go into the channel, and it just can't ever come out.
That it's actually the massive quantities of chicken.
First up, you're not a medical doctor.
No, I'm a scientist.
Okay.